Welcome to Stoic Today, where transformation begins not with noise, but with clarity. Before you go any further, take a moment to do something powerful for your future. Click the subscribe button, leave a meaningful comment, and allow this message to ignite a deeper level of awareness and growth in your life. Thank you for being here. Your time is valuable, and this content was created to honor it. Now, let's go deeper. Don't miss the full content, because this isn't just inspiration. It's the moment where your healing begins, your strength is reclaimed, and your silence finally becomes your superpower. This isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of the part where you stop settling, stop shrinking, and start stepping into everything that's been waiting for you. Start walking, start healing, start right now with Stoic Today by your side. You don't have to block him. You don't have to beg him, and you surely don't have to lose yourself just to prove your worth. Listen to me. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Because silence, when it's coming from a place of strength, not spite, is louder than any scream, any text, any emotional outburst. Healing isn't loud, it's holy. And when you shift from pain to peace, from begging to boundaries, you start to move in a divine flow. Your silence becomes your strength. Your distance becomes your dignity. And your growth becomes undeniable. When you stop reacting, you stop participating in the cycle that's been draining you. You see, the enemy doesn't always need to destroy you. Sometimes he just needs to distract you. And what better way to do it than to keep you tangled in back-and-forth arguments, desperate explanations, and endless overthinking? Healing isn't loud, it's holy. And when you shift from pain to peace, from begging to boundaries, you start to move in a divine flow. Your silence becomes your strength. Your distance becomes your dignity. And your growth becomes undeniable. But when you get quiet, something shifts. When you stop responding to the chaos, you start creating peace. That silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's restraint. It's the choice to preserve your dignity over proving your point. So many of you think closure is about having the last conversation. No real closure happens when you decide in your spirit, this no longer deserves my energy. Healing isn't loud, it's holy. And when you shift from pain to peace, from begging to boundaries, you start to move in a divine flow. Your silence becomes your strength. Your distance becomes your dignity. And your growth becomes undeniable. Introduction. Why silence is the most powerful response. And that decision doesn't need to be broadcast. You don't need to block him. You don't need to beg him to understand you. Just be still. Be silent. Let the absence speak louder than your explanations ever could. There's a strength that comes in knowing who you are, and not needing to explain that to someone who failed to see it. Healing isn't loud, it's holy. And when you shift from pain to peace, from begging to boundaries, you start to move in a divine flow. Your silence becomes your strength, your distance becomes your dignity, and your growth becomes undeniable.
By choosing convenience over commitment, by stepping away when they were supposed to step in, that's not a person you allow back into the core of your life. That's a betrayal you never forget and one you never excuse. There's something sacred about vulnerability. When you open up to someone, when you peel back the layers and let them see who you really are, not the version the world claps for, but the real you. With all the scars and all the stories, you are giving them a part of your soul. That's not casual. That's not light. That's trust at its deepest level. And when someone takes that trust and weaponizes it against you, that is one of the most dangerous betrayals a heart can ever endure. You see, betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. It comes from the ones you let in close, the ones you told your secrets to at midnight, the ones who held you while you cried, the ones who said, "You can be safe with me." And then when their mood changed or their intention shifted, they took what you shared in confidence and used it to cut you down. That is not just hurtful, it is a violation of your very essence. I want you to understand this. If someone has ever taken your pain and turned it into gossip, if they ever used your past ammunition in an argument, if they ever threw your trauma back in your face like a weapon, that was not just a mistake. That was a betrayal of your humanity. That was a betrayal of your heart. And no apology, no explanation, no, I didn't mean it, like that can erase what they chose to do with what you gave them in trust. Some people don't understand the weight of what you carry. They don't see that it took everything in you to speak those words to open that chapter of your life. And when they misuse it, they are not just being cruel. They are showing you that they were never worthy of that part of you to begin with. You see, when you're vulnerable with someone, you're not asking them to fix you. You're not asking them to be perfect. You're asking them to be gentle. And when they respond with judgment, manipulation, or exposure, they are revealing something far more broken in themselves than what you ever shared with them. There are people who smile in your face and study your wounds, not to help heal them, but to figure out how deep they are so they know where to stab when the time comes. That's real. That's why some of the most painful experiences we face don't come from strangers. They come from the people we trusted the most. And you have every right to protect yourself from that kind of pain ever again. Now, I'm not saying don't forgive. I'm not saying carry bitterness. What I am saying is don't give a second chance to someone who turned your vulnerability into a weapon. Because love does not humiliate, trust does not punish, and loyalty does not leak your private battles into public places. That kind of betrayal cuts deeper than we often admit because it shakes the very foundation of what love is supposed to be. There are moments in life when you have to pause and ask yourself, who has access to my soul? Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your healing. Not everyone can be trusted with your story. And just because someone says, I'm sorry, doesn't mean they're safe. Sorry, without changed behavior, is just manipulation with better timing. Some betrayals require boundaries, not reunions. You've grown. You've been through enough. You've cried too many tears in silence to keep explaining yourself to people who only want information, not connection. So don't reopen the door for people who took what you said in whispers and turned it into a sword. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's a betrayal that echoes louder than words. You're not bitter. You're not cold. You're just wiser now. You know that trust is sacred and hearts are not toys. And when someone chooses to mishandle your heart after you've handed it to them with trembling hands, that's a betrayal that you never forget and one you should never forgive. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't make a sound. It doesn't come with shouting, slamming doors, or final goodbyes. No, it shows up slowly, quietly, when someone you love stops showing up for you emotionally. They're still there physically, still sitting at the same table, still sleeping in the same bed, but something has left. The warmth, the presence, the heart, it's gone. And the silence of that absence can be louder than any argument. When someone chooses to go emotionally numb in a relationship, when they disconnect from your needs, your pain, your joy, your presence, that's betrayal too. Just because they didn't walk out the door doesn't mean they didn't leave. Because love isn't just being in the room. Love is being aware, being connected, being engaged. And when someone makes the choose to tune you out, to ignore your wish tries, to stop caring about your emotional well-being, they're not staying. They're slowly abandoning you. Some of the loneliest people in the world are lying next to someone every night. And that pain, that ache is deep because you remember when they used to ask how you were. You remember when they listened with their eyes, not just their ears. You remember when they used to reach for your hand, not just out of habit, but out of desire, and now they barely look up. Now they scroll, nod, grunt, and pass you by like furniture in the house. And the hardest part, you start questioning yourself. You wonder, what did I do wrong? Why don't they talk to me anymore? Why does it feel like I'm invisible? But hear this deep in your spirit. You are not crazy. You are not asking for too much. Emotional connection is not a luxury in love. It's the lifeblood of it. When someone chooses to shut you out, to build walls instead of bridges, to treat your presence like a background noise, they're betraying the very foundation of intimacy. You see, presence without participation is abandonment in disguise. And you can't build a future with someone who's emotionally absent in your present. Relationships aren't just about what's visible. They're built in the unseen communication, empathy, affection, effort. When those things die, what's left is a shell, a performance, a routine, but not love. And I need you to know emotional abandonment is not less harmful than physical departure. In some ways, it's even more painful because at least when someone leaves, the break is clear. But when they stay without staying, when they're there but not really there, it creates a kind of confusion that wears your soul down. You begin to shrink. You begin to go silent. You stop asking for what you need because you're tired of being met with indifference. And slowly, you start losing yourself in the name of trying to keep the peace. But love that costs you your voice is not love. Love that asks you to be quiet so they can be comfortable is not love. When someone betrays you by neglecting your emotional needs, by showing up halfway, by refusing to lean in when you're breaking, that is not a minor issue. That is a deep fracture. And no amount of routine, no amount of time, no shared history can make up for the damage that kind of detachment causes. You deserve presence that sees you. You deserve love that listens before you speak. You deserve someone who doesn't just sit next to you, but sits with you, heart to heart, soul to soul. Someone who looks into your eyes and says, I'm here, I still care, I still choose you. Because that's what commitment looks like. That's what covenant feels like. Don't settle for bodies without souls. Don't settle for I'm here when their heart checked out months ago. And don't you dare blame yourself for someone else's refusal to engage. Love takes work. Real love leans in. And when someone chooses to stay disengaged, to let the distance grow, to keep showing up on the outside while leaving you starving on the inside, that is a betrayal that no amount of apologies can cover. Some betrayals aren't meant for reconciliation. We often hear that forgiveness means going back, letting someone back into your life, reopening that door, and trusting them again. But there are certain betrayals, certain hurts, where forgiveness doesn't call for reunions. Sometimes forgiving someone means learning to let them go and walking away from what they did to you, even if they never fully understand the depth of their actions. I know it's hard to hear, especially if you're a person who believes in second chances, who believes in grace, and who believes in reconciliation. But listen closely. There are times when the best thing you can do for your soul is to recognize that not all relationships are meant to be restored, and not all people deserve a seat at your table after they've hurt you. There are wounds that are so deep, so personal, that giving someone a second chance is not healing. It's reopening the wound. You see, forgiveness is not about excusing the behavior. It's not about pretending the hurt didn't happen. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the weight of bitterness, anger, and regret. But it doesn't always mean letting someone back into your life. You can forgive someone from a distance. You can choose to release the pain without reopening the door to the very person who caused it. Sometimes you've got to protect your peace so fiercely that you don't allow the same person who hurt you to come back and do it again. Forgiveness is not a green light to let them back in. It's a chance for you to move forward and make space for people who will love you right. If someone has betrayed you in such a way that it's shattered trust, shattered your peace, or shattered your spirit, you don't owe them another shot. You don't owe them a chance to prove themselves again. Some people will never change. Some people will never see the error of their ways. Some people will never realize the weight of their words, the harm of their actions, and the destruction they left behind. And you can't spend your life hoping that they will. That's not your job. It's not your responsibility to wait for someone to come around. It's your responsibility to recognize your worth and protect it. When someone's betrayal takes something from you, whether it's your trust, your heart, your peace, or your sense of self, you have the right to draw a line. You have the right to say, I forgive you, but I'm not going to let you back in. That doesn't make you bitter. That makes you wise. It makes you strong. It makes you someone who understands that your future is more important than a painful past, and that some things are not worth going back to. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and never look back. Because if you let someone who betrayed you come back into your life without boundaries, you risk allowing them to do it again. And how many times do you need to be hurt before you realize that some people are just not capable of treating you the way you deserve to be treated? It's not about them, it's about you and your healing. It's about you learning that you don't have to keep reopening the same chapter just because someone else hasn't learned their lesson. And I want to remind you, this doesn't mean you're holding a grudge. It doesn't mean you're harboring hatred. It means you've learned to protect your heart. You've learned to value your peace over temporary comfort. You've learned that true healing doesn't always come from getting back with the person who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from letting go, from moving forward, and from saying, this chapter is closed. I will no longer let this pain define me. It's easy to confuse forgiveness with the need for reconciliation, but forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the bondage of what they did to you. Reconciliation is a separate matter. Sometimes reconciliation isn't possible not because you haven't forgiven, but because they haven't changed. And you can't force someone to change. You can't make someone see their own flaws if they're not ready to confront them. But you can choose to protect your heart. And you can choose to walk away from what no longer serves your healing. So forgive, yes, but understand that forgiveness is not an invitation for someone to come back into your life. It's a decision to move forward without them, with peace in your heart and strength in your soul. There's one final betrayal that we need to talk about today: the betrayal of your boundaries. This is something that often goes unnoticed at first because it doesn't come in the form of a loud argument or a blatant act of deceit. No, this betrayal is more insidious. It's the kind that creeps in slowly, quietly, until one day you realize that you've been allowing someone to walk all over your boundaries for far too long. And let me tell you, that kind of betrayal is just as damaging, if not more so than anything else. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not barriers to keep people out. Boundaries are simply the way we protect our peace, our dignity, and our sense of self. They are the limits we set to ensure that we are treated with respect and that our emotional, mental, and physical well-being is cared for. But when someone continuously violates those boundaries, whether it's through disrespect, manipulation, or sheer selfishness, they are betraying the trust that you have placed in them. There are many of you listening today who have let others cross lines that should have never been crossed. You've allowed people into your space, into your heart, into your life in ways that made you uncomfortable, made you feel small, or made you feel like you were never truly seen. And each time they ignored your boundaries, whether they were verbal or unspoken, they took a little more of you. They chipped away at your sense of self. And each violation left a wound that's harder to heal than the last. Some of you have been so afraid of confrontation, so afraid of losing someone that you've let your boundaries slip. You've let your needs go unmet, and you've allowed someone to treat you in a way that you never deserved. And here's the truth. When you allow someone to keep stepping over your boundaries, when you don't stand firm in what you need, what you're actually doing is teaching them that it's okay to keep disrespecting you. You're teaching them that it's okay to take more than they give. You're teaching them that your worth is negotiable. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but they didn't mean it. They don't know how much it hurts. Let me tell you something. People know exactly what they're doing when they repeatedly ignore your boundaries. They may not always do it with malice, but they do it because they know that they can get away with it. They know that you will eventually back down, that you'll eventually apologize, that you'll eventually just take it. And if you keep letting them, they will keep taking. But I need you to hear this. You do not owe anyone an apology for having boundaries. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You do not have to keep saying yes to people who do not respect your no. You do not have to keep giving to those who never give back. And you definitely do not have to keep letting people in and who have proven time and time again that they will walk all over you. The truth is, you cannot love others well if you don't first love yourself enough to protect your own well-being. You cannot be the best version of yourself if you're constantly allowing others to drain you, disrespect you, or manipulate you. You cannot live a full, free, and joyful life if you are always in a constant state of emotional compromise because you are afraid to say no. There are people in your life who may love you, yes, but they don't always respect your boundaries. And when they continue to push, when they continue to demand, when they continue to take without giving, you have to make a choice. You have to decide if your peace is more important than their approval. You have to decide if your sanity is more important than their comfort. You have to decide if your heart is more important than their convenience. And once you make that choice, you need to stand firm. Let me be clear. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cold. It doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you unkind. It makes you strong. It makes you wise. It makes you someone who values themselves enough to say, I will no longer let anyone take more than what they give. It makes you someone who understands that your peace is sacred, your time is precious, and your heart is not a doormat for people to wipe their feet on. You are worth more than being treated like an afterthought. You are worth more than being someone's emotional punching bag. You are worth more than being someone's last priority. And if someone continues to betray your boundaries, if they continue to disregard what you need in order to preserve themselves, then it's time to let them go. Because no one who truly loves you will ever make you feel like you're less than enough. And no one who respects you will ever cross your boundaries without fear of the consequences. Set your boundaries.
Your silence becomes your greatest weapon of strength, steady, grounded, and unshakable. Your distance isn't cold or careless, it's a powerful act of sacred self-respect. And your growth, though quiet, gradual, and often unseen by others, becomes the loudest declaration of who you are becoming. You don't have to explain. You don't need to defend. The energy you carry will say everything for you. And the moment you stop waiting for them to understand your journey is the moment you fully understand your worth, and that realization will change everything. If this message stirred something real in your soul, don't just scroll past and let it fade into the background of your day. Let this be more than a fleeting feeling. Let it be a moment of breakthrough, a moment of truth, a moment that leads to real transformation. I like this message if you're finally ready to heal silently and rise powerfully. Comment the part that pierced your heart and share what you're now ready to release, because your courage could give someone else permission to begin their own healing. And most importantly, subscribe to Stoic today, right now, to access daily content filled with wisdom, strength, emotional clarity, and the mindset tools you need to rebuild, renew, and rise. Don't miss the full message. It's more than just encouragement. It's a call to step back into your power, to stand tall in your silence, and to create a life that no longer asks permission to be peaceful, purposeful, or whole. Let go of what broke you. Make space for what will build you. Let your silence be your roar. Let your healing glow. And then just watch what happens next, because your rise won't need to be announced. It will be undeniable. Your new chapter begins now. Start it with Stoic today, where truth meets transformation, and your healing finally has a voice. Thank you for your patience and humility in listening to the content in the video. We hope you will take some of your precious time to subscribe to the channel, click the link, and continue listening to meaningful content to achieve wealth, success, and complete happiness.